Hey, it's August 18th, 2023, Friday evening. Welcome back here to the Hotel Orloff here in scenic, historic rural Retreat, Virginia, in Wythe County. We, um, we've been expecting you. We're going to look at some Thor comics today, I think, because I want to. So, it's probably Friday evening when you're watching this. It's actually 11:25 in the morning, and so I haven't had breakfast. I'll wait and have lunch a little later. Trying to trying to save money because these are not good. Not good financial times. Oh, I need more light, don't I? Yeah, things are not going well here in the United States of America too well. But if you buy more comic books, then you're gonna right. Anyway, I never really intended this show to really be just about comic books, and I really, you know, I show these comics just as an excuse to talk about other things. I think I kind of, in a way, I kind of hate. I hate comic books today. I like these old comics from before I was born and up till maybe about the time I was 12 or 15. But comics since then, I don't care about them, It's like, and I don't know anything about them, really. And you're probably starting to realize that, when I'm on with a bunch of other experienced comic collectors as I do the guest hosting on Four Color Fossils until Micah gets better and comes back in mid-September. People talk about Peter David. Who's he? People talk about, there's this gray Hulk that's a gangster. It's like, what the heck is that? And it's because once by the time the 90s came in, I wasn't really, it was probably the 80s, it's like I got sick. I'll buy I would buy all the Dave Stevens books off the rack, and I could tell there was still good stuff being made, but um, I guess just don't care about modern comics, and so let's see. We're gonna look at Thor comics. Let's see. Here's we'll get to the Thor comics. We'll start going through Tales, looking at Tales to Astonish. Um, Tales to Astonish, Ant-Man, the Wasp. I enjoyed those first two Ant-Man movies, but that third one, boy, was that bad. And they're ruining everything. Here with the Fantastic Four movie, they were doing all this weird casting. They wanted Adam Driver to play Mr. Fantastic, the guy with the big, weird, long nose, and he doesn't want to do it. And then a lot of people wanted this couple that was in some movie where you're not supposed to make any noise because there are aliens around. They wanted that couple, the real life married couple, to play Sue and Reed, and that didn't pan out. They wanted some guy with dreadlocks to play the Thing, and I don't think that panned out. Now they're talking about we need a fat guy to play the Thing. It's like we need an overweight guy. And then I heard that Sue Storm is going to be the leader of the Fantastic Four instead of Mr. Fantastic because I guess, they want the representation or what other weird things did I hear? They'll mess it up terribly. It'll be horrible. Um, Here's number 50. I'm actually in a pretty good mood, even though I don't seem to be, and because I'm kind of hungry. My wife calls that hangry. Um, I have two copies of Tales to Astonish number 50. I hold it weirdly to hide the price tag. These are great books. If you luck into someone selling these cheap, buy them. Otherwise, I would recommend you wait a few years. Here's Tales to Astonish number 53. These are fun stories to read. And yes, the best way to get them is in these original editions where you've got the original ads and you've got the bullpen pages and the ads for other comics coming out, and the smell of an old comic. There's nothing like it, or should I call it the scent? Smell kind of sounds bad. But right now is not the time to be buying comics. Even though the price of comics is going down, the price of comics is going down because no one can afford gas or food, even though they say Bidenomics is just helping us out tremendously. Clearly it isn't. You're awake. I assume you are. Look at this mint condition. I got this for like almost free years ago. Number 55. The cover's messed up. The rest of the book's okay. I don't know what they were doing, man. I have no idea. A bunch of numbers. Do not get inspired and go out and buy a bunch of comics right now, because you need to be. And well, what I would do on these, I'd buy books, not those omnibus books, but buy books that reprint these. If you really have to read them, read these stories. This is 57, obviously the same original owner bought it at the same time. Buy reprints. I hate to say that. I never would have said that in the past, but right now you need to be saving, you need to be stockpiling food and water and batteries, and it sounds like a conspiracy theorist, but something's coming if you pay attention at all. Now there's a hurricane. I guess when they come from the Pacific Ocean, they're called cyclones. Is that right? Something like that. Anyway, there's a hurricane headed towards San Diego and Los Angeles. I think it's supposed to hit like on Sunday. And even folks in Arizona are supposed to get some rain out of it. And that hasn't happened since 1939. Gee, I wonder why it's happening right now when the biggest push is climate change. It couldn't be possibly. No, it's impossible for man to control the weather. It's not possible, so I'm just out of my mind. But it sure would help them with their little oh well, don't worry about it. It's nothing to see here. Number 63. 64. Well, I got a little. I decided I'd better just stop talking at the end of the last show that I did. I was substituting for Micah on 4-Color Fossils, and after that I said, maybe someone else should just do it next week. I'll come back and do it. It just, look, if you come on the show, treat me with the same respect you would Micah. And Micah, I don't think people would pull out it. And I love the National Lampoon. I have almost a complete collection of the 1970s National Lampoon. Love the National Lampoon. But I would never pull out an issue of National Lampoon with nudity on the cover on Micah's show or on anyone else's live stream. That's, you want to do it on your own channel, that's fine, but don't do it on someone else's channel. It's kind of disrespectful. And then look, Batman book that has Batman naked in it. I don't even know that exists. And that's Micah's show is sacred to me, and it's like you don't talk about stuff, and then trying to stir me up, over something that I guess was a little sensitive to the other night. I already talked about all this stuff. This is number 65, and I talked about it about 6 feet from here on an episode. So I just, but yeah, it was just an attempt to, hey, I'm done with high school, man. I don't want this MySpace came along, and when was that? In the 2000s, late 2000s, whatever. MySpace. My friend Ryan says there's this new thing called MySpace. So okay, I'll go on there. I'll just, I think I'll call myself the name of a Stan Lee monster. I looked at a list of all the monsters that used to be in Strange Tales and everything. Oh, Gratu, that's a good name. So I just put myself as Gratu on MySpace because I didn't want to use my real name or even my real picture. So I was Gratu, and I took a picture of a Scuzzfink, a little Big Daddy Roth Martian model kit from the 60s, and that was my identity on MySpace. And then then Facebook comes, so I'm Gratu there, whatever. And because I have no respect for social media, And so then I started doing a channel 4 years ago, whenever I started this on YouTube, and I used that name. But it's this name that Stan Lee, I know it's not good. Everyone doesn't want to give Stan Lee any credit for doing anything right now, because he did take more credit than he should have for creating, the heck. Oh, here's another copy of that same issue I just showed you, but from that guy. I bought all these the same afternoon from a store in Texas that had all this marker on the cover for virtually nothing. But I have another copy of it without that. Anyway, so I just, that was the name. But then you start realizing, like the pine trees lining the winding road. I've got a name. Like the singing birds and the chirping toad, or the croaking toad. I've got a name, and I'll carry it with me like my daddy did. If it gets me nowhere, I'll go there proud, right? But I'm, living the dream. I carry it with me like my daddy did, but I'm living the dream that he kept hid, right? I've got the lyrics wrong. So at a certain point, I decided, hey, all I hear is Gratu. People start talking, about you on YouTube. It's like, Gratu, where is this? Let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. People say, that Gratu, he likes those My Lights. That Gratu, he has bad camera work. He puts his camera crooked. It's not crooked enough. That Gratu, man, that Gratu, he talks too much, he talks too long. And it's like, that Gratu doesn't like slabbing books. I'm going to show this slabbing book, but I think it's going to hurt Gratu's feelings. I'll show this. I got sick of hearing the name, and then, so I decided I'm going to change my name to my real name, because that's the name that my parents gave me. But Orloff is a real name. It was my great-grandmother's name, so Bertha Orloff. I said, I'll keep that, but I'll use my real name, Kenneth, or Ken. And people watch that because I've noticed, people like the Crypt Keeper of Castle Hills and everything, on their show, they'll start talking about Ken or Dr. Orloff, and that's fine. I just you can still call me Gratu. I don't care. It's ridiculous. This YouTube is meaningless BS. You can call me whatever you want. But yeah, it was right after I kind of got upset about an incident that happened on the Four Color Fossils where I was told that I was being timed, and you know, and that, the guy that brought all this up the other night knew all about that and was trying to stir stuff up to see. It's just like junior high school, was trying to stir something up to see if I'd get upset. And yeah, I fell right into the trap and got upset, but then I realized, my grandfather had a temper. I don't want to be like that, so I just decided I'm going to just be quiet for the rest of the show. And then when the last person finished, I just hit in. But the only problem is StreamYard went back and cut off the middle of the sentence. I didn't like that. But yeah, I don't want to. Don't try to stir me up. Maybe I shouldn't do this live streaming because people try to stir you up on live international television. And anyway, I don't know. But I'm sick of also, you know, I show these books, but don't go buy this book. You don't. This is not the time to be buying books. Do not buy this. This book is fantastic. I love this book. This book is great. Most comic collectors are morons, and they would never. They don't want this because it's not the Hulk. It's Hulk. You know, they start with that Hulk with the Marie Severin cover, 102 or whatever, and think that's where Hulk started. All the great Hulk stories are here in Tales to Astonish. But these books are actually, these books are somewhat affordable. You can get them kind of cheap. But right now, you don't even need to be buying cheap comics, man, because you need to be stockpiling food. You need to be selling your house or packing up your apartment and moving out of the city. That's one thing you need to do. Here's another great issue. That's a class. Like right now is we're living through historic times, and you need to be not be buying comics. Yeah, this is I bought these back in the late 70s, early 80s. Man, it wasn't that painful to buy these. See, right next to the I don't know if you can see right next to the 67, there's a little pencil G. That means it's good condition. Bought this at Lone Star Comics. To me, this is better than good condition. Maybe I'm wrong. To me, this is perfectly acceptable. This looks great to me. If you're one of these people that slab comics, oh brother, are you in for an awakening? First of all, what the heck do you do for a living, all you people on YouTube that have all these slabs that you show? This is, I got this for a bargain. It was only $2,000. Well, if I had $2,000 right now, almost every one of my problems would be solved. I couldn't even afford to eat breakfast this morning. I'm sick and tired of watching people on YouTube that show comic books, man. I'm doing it right now, but I'm telling you, don't go buy them now. In a few years, maybe we'll have people in charge of the country that will make us prosperous again. But I don't know, man. This is not the time. These are great stories, though. There are people that don't buy these, though. And these, I just don't get it. Anyway, see, this is Hulk 69, basically. It's Tales to Astonish. But it's this comic will turn into the Hulk with issue 102. You know, in about 30-something issues. But people just don't collect this. They'll only collect Hulk 1 through 6 and then 102 on because they want Hulk. Because I don't know why. I can't explain it. I can't explain anything. The way that, and I've always had things that I loved, and then I realize when I meet other people that love the same things I love, they're horrible people. Not always. I'm meeting great people in the Four Color Fossils. You know, there's great people on YouTube that share my taste, but I never met them in real life. I only met them in the last few years here on the internet. For the most part, Whenever I went to a comic book store, I was horrified by the people around me. Horrible people. Um, I just like, I listened to what they were talking about and their jokes, and it was just repulsive. And I bought what I came in to get and left. And I'd go to comic conventions, and it would be horrible. The people around me smelled and were just disgusting. And occasionally I'd see some cool people, you know, and usually I'd be looking through a stack of eerie publications, you know, the really gory monster magazines. And then I'd see, oh, there's someone else like me that's also looking at these, that has a Ramones shirt on. Maybe I should talk to this person. I never really did. I met a few people, you know, but mostly, when my older brother watched Star Trek, you know, I was a little kid, like probably about 1970, and my brother was watching Star Trek reruns there in Heidelberg, Germany, and we had the only television in the whole building, you know, because when we moved in to the barracks, it's not called barracks, what do you call the military housing they have on this base that we lived in Heidelberg? It's like a lot of people had their television sets brought over from the United States, but they thought, we can't get any American television here, it's only German TV. So they didn't even get their TVs out, they just left them boxed up. And my dad went up on the top of the building and put a TV aerial up, an antenna, and it's like, oh, we got this one American Armed Services channel in that showed what they picked from ABC, CBS, and NBC back in the States, and they ran Star Trek on Saturday nights, and they had Westerns, and Felix the Cat, and the Flintstones, and some All in the Family, whatever they selected from not all the shows. And so then everyone else started to, you know, because my dad was someone that was proactive, and you need to be proactive too. And I'm talking a bunch of garbage, because I had stocked up on water, and then we ran out of money. I went through all the water, but I've got to. And you think, how are you out of money? You got all this stuff. Shit, I bought this stuff years ago. And a whole life of collecting, and then inheriting some money when my parents passed away, which I blew on this kind of stuff. It sounds like this guy's rich. It's in complete poverty, man. Why don't you sell your comic books? Yeah, you sell your comic books. See how that would, like, really? Aren't all comic collectors mentally insane? Yeah, it would make sense to sell these comics right now, but I can't do it. And then when I die, these comics are, you know, my wife will have to get rid of them, and if they, I don't know what they just probably wind up in a dumpster. Not my wife wouldn't do that, but anyway, there's just I just don't know, man. It's just like here I'm doing everything I'm criticizing, showing comic books, but we need to wake up, man. Do you watch the news at all? They just burned all it's like, oh, it's just coincidence that only the poor neighborhoods were burned in Maui. But somehow all the mansions are all perfectly fine. Oh, the climate change knows not to bother. Climate change knows better than to bother those Oprah Winfrey type people. This doesn't have a cover. Yeah, wonderful. One way, if you want to be really cheap, is go to archive.org and look up Marvel Superheroes cartoons 1966 and beam that to your television, and you'll get to see a lot of these stories acted out in kind of animation that's like a slideshow, but they're wonderful. The voice talent, John Vernon, did a lot of the voices, the music, everything's great in those cartoons. This is another one owned by that same moron that liked to draw with marker all over the cover. it's like there's some meaning behind it. There's like some numbers there. I just, it's not just like a 3-year-old scribbling. So anyway, bottom line is, you know, on that show that apparently nobody watched, I said, you know, just call me Ken Orloff, or you can call me Kenneth Orloff, or just Dr. Orloff. And I was going to try to wean out the name Gratu, and nobody cares, nobody watches. But anyway, I don't know. It's a great cover. All these covers are great. What am I talking about? And this isn't nostalgia, because this is stuff I was learning to walk when these comics came out. But in a way, I wouldn't say, I can't say it's my older brothers were reading these books. They were 10 years older than me, and no, my older brothers didn't read Marvel at all. They hated Marvel. So what makes me nostalgic for these books? Just a love for the 1960s. See, to me, it isn't the comics. It's to a large degree the time period. Loving this time period of the 1960s. Ooh, this one's in bad shape. It's that I love the 1960s. I love the 1950s. I love a lot of the 1970s. But there's new Hulk books that come out now. There's new, I don't know if there is a current Submariner book, but I have no interest in reading the Hulk now. I have interest in the Hulk in 1966, 1967, because it's a wonderful time, and I can dream of being that 10, 11, 12-year-old buying this off a spinner rack. And I can't wait to read it. I stop and sit on a curb right outside the 7-Eleven and read this, because I can't wait to find out what it's the same way listening to old-time radio from the 30s and 40s. It's like I wasn't even born then, but it's like I can mystically time travel and move right into the brains of people back then and know what it was like, what it smelled like, and sitting in that living room with a radio and listening. It's like, it's not a past life regression or anything. I just don't care about today, and today is nothing but garbage. I just had a great, I was going to do this show like an hour ago, but I was listening to Carolyn Borisenko on YouTube, and she was watching a live, Tim Pool was live, and she was watching it, commenting on it, and Tim Pool had on Laura Loomer debating some guy, I think his name is Bill Mitchell. He was like some kind of newscaster, and they were arguing about Trump versus DeSantis, and it was just great. And Laura Loomer was, I think, I think she was great. She tore that guy apart. Here's number 99. We're getting close to the 102, but why is this not as valuable as 102? This cover is spectacular. It's earlier than 102, but it's got Hulk real big, but it wasn't until Hulk got his own title. And really, in 1968, Marvel expanded, and they had all these characters that were having to share books, like Hulk and Submariner and Captain America and Iron Man, whatever. They all got their own books, and But right about that time, it was like the the stories weren't as good because Stan Lee he was like almost ready to move on to Hollywood. He wasn't caring, and the artists were like kind of phoning it in a little bit. Like Jack Kirby wanted a raise, and Stan Lee said, "Well, just draw. We can't give you a raise. Just draw bigger panels, and then it'll almost be like getting a raise because you won't be drawing as much." So, you know, you can really see it where Jack Kirby just says, "Oh, to heck with this," and he stops creating new characters and he starts giving you full pages that are spectacular. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as good as the books were around 1965. Here's an unbagged Teen Titans. Why don't you bag the books, Gratu or Kenneth? Oh, that wasn't the thing that upset me. It was like, I hear rumors that you don't like your name anymore. I hear people are telling me. It's like, yeah, who's telling you? Who are the rumors? I don't. You know, I don't. You know, ask me in person or watch my show. I explain everything. I tell everything on my show. Teen Titans, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, that's a great issue. That's the thing, is you don't get these ads when you get the reprints. This one's not in very good shape, but it's perfectly good reading copy and all that. And this is all very 1960. Got to be 67 or 68. Where's my magnifying glass? It's not down here. Okay, we're supposed to get to Thor. I'm almost to Thor. Oh yeah, this is 101. The next one would be the one that's super valuable. Okay. And you know, it's you know, it's a beautiful book, but it's not the first issue of Hulk. People treat it like, oh, that's the first Hulk comic. Yeah, Teen Titans was cashing in on the mod. Because they were teenagers, so they're trying to make them all hip, and that lasted until the comics code was made more less restrictive, where that you could have horror in comics. Ooh, this one's in bad shape. This is another copy of the same one. Look, some kid actually mailed off for these soldiers and got ripped off. I always like that. You notice he's got a bullet hole in his head there, in his helmet there. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. I was told recently, the other night, that if you want to expand your channel, talk about anything but comic books, and I think that's good advice. Maybe I got things to talk about in these books. See here, you can kind of tell that horror is being allowed. It's starting to look more like a cover of a House of Mystery or something. So, oh, this is a great cover. Yeah, definitely. See how the horror influence is coming in. This is different from floating heads. These are floating whole bodies. Yes, indeed. Teen Titans. Oh, we're almost to Thor. Oh, another copy of the same issue. And my last. These are just Silver Age books. I have my Silver Age separated because I couldn't stand the Silver Age touching and contaminating later period books. So here's another horror-looking cover. And it's so once the books go down from 25 cents to 20 cents, then for me the Bronze Age starts, and so I've got my little plaque divider that says Thor, which I paid $1.29 to from Lone Star Comics back in the late 70s. These are the ones they used in their store. Okay, so my oldest journey into mystery, because this is where Thor started from, is 98. Thor would, this comic would turn into Thor. Same numbering, 101.
Families broken. More small business shutdowns are not essential in end of the globe. All the force injections, all the PCR tests in this slave dance.
102. Yeah, I love these books. And I would recommend that you read them, but just if you want to read them right now, get reprints, book reprints, and wait until something better happens in the world, if something ever does happen. So they're going to be bringing in Trump and doing getting a mug shot of him and all that stuff just to humiliate him. But Monday he's going to be giving a press conference where he says he's going to show that everything is BS. And then on Wednesday there's a Republican debate, but Trump's not going to it. This was marked $55, and I think I got it half off from Duncanville Books. So this is a more recent purchase. Those other Thors I've been showing you I bought way back when. He said, well, recent being a couple of years ago. Now I've got stuff on hold at a comic store in Mesa, Arizona, Gotham City Comics. Once I get all that cleared, I'm certainly, which I hopefully will by Christmas, a little bit each month. I'll still buy a few things each month, but we gotta be careful with our money. We've got, because I see people on YouTube that are friends. I've never met them in person, but they're friends. I've talked to them on the phone, and we need to be careful, man. We need to just start thinking about what could be coming, because you could bury your head in the ground and not watch the news, I guess, and not be aware of what's happening. But I don't know. 108. I don't have 109. I don't have 109, but I have 110. This was a great comic store, Duncanville Books. That's where I got that one. I was a couple years ago trying to fill in the holes in my Thor collection at Duncanville, because it's one of the only stores that actually has old books. A lot of comic stores, this is 111, don't have any old comics. That was 111. I'm missing 112. Here's 113. I have the missing stories, I guess I have in the Marvel Masterworks hardcover books. 113. Yeah, it's like I'm missing every other issue. Here's 115. You do what you gotta. You do what you can. Here's 116. That's a beautiful cover. Okay, I'm missing 117, 118. Here's 119, where Marvel starts calling itself Marvel Pop Art Productions. Stanley's trying to cash in on the Roy Lichtenstein, Andy Warhol stuff going on in the mid-60s. 120. Beautiful. Oh, a date stamp. August 3rd, 1965. So I'm about 3 months old, a little more than 3 months old when this one was put on the stands. This is the time period. 64 to 66 for Marvel is the sweet spot. That's what you need to be buying. when the world recovers.
And the deputy director of water resource management, who was named an Obama Foundation leader, refused to release water for the West Maui fires.
But we just gotta wake up.
He says that in order to share water, Hawaiians need to discuss equity.
Is it the Marxists taking over? Is it the World Economic Forum? Is it BlackRock, Vanguard? Or is it just, if you get down, who is controlling all of those people? Could it be Satan? Wasn't there some stupid skit on the horrible Saturday Night Live where it was some church lady? Yeah, that was after Saturday Night Live. I don't know. To me, that's another thing. Saturday Night Live, when that original cast left, that was the end, man. Once John Belushi and who were the last of the original ones to leave? What was the year when they got a whole new cast? Everyone was gone. Bill Murray, Garrett Morris, Gilda Radner, Jane Carter. They were all gone, and then they replaced them with people like Charles Rocket and stuff like. Remember that? And it was like legendary how bad it was. Was that like 1980? And then someone slipped and said the F word on live television, and that was a big deal. I remember that. This is weird, and it's got a 15-cent sticker over the 12-cent. Don't really know what that was about or why that was done, because comics didn't go up to 15 cents for a while after this. We're still in the great days when Hercules appeared. And I was enjoying the Thor movies. I really liked the movie Ragnarok, and I thought, well, the next one it's the same director. It should be good too. Oh no, it wasn't. It's like, then I have to go back and think, was I really right about Ragnarok, or was I just out of my mind? Because Love and Thunder was so bad to the point where the actor that plays Thor is like complaining. It's like, I don't know, these movies are terrible. Chris Hemsworth, right? I always thought it was a big mistake that they never really had Thor in his helmet except for a few seconds in the first movie and maybe in one of the others. It's like, without the helmet, it's just not right. Yeah, this is, I would actually walk about I wonder how many miles it was. About 3 miles maybe to go to Lone Star Comics when I was a kid, before I had a driver's license, to buy these old issues of Thor in the late 70s, early 80s. And on a summer day, it was hot like today. Back where I used to live, I think it's like 109 today, or it was yesterday. It's not as hot here where we've moved to, but it's more humid. Here's a beautiful cover, 133. See that beautiful, the coloring is so beautiful. I'm not going to explain this. When they would reprint these books in the 70s, the colors would be garish and bright. Stan Lee wanted the colors garish and bright, and Marie Severin, the colorist, said, "Oh, okay, Stan," and then she'd just keep doing it this way. But the books were selling, so Stan Lee couldn't, really lay down, like, what's the right cliche? Lay down his foot, put down his foot, lay down the law. You see what the colors look like? It's Marie Severin doing the coloring. She was the colorist for EC Comics. And if you just think about a vintage Haunt of Fear or Tales from the Crypt, that's the same kind of muted coloring that you would get on those EC Comics. The great time to have been a comic collector would have been right about this time. Okay, and this book went up in value because this character was in the last Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Um, right about this time. Okay, so you watched Lost in Space, Billy Mummy. I'm still not sure how to pronounce that. But he was my idol when I was a little kid watching reruns of Lost in Space, right? Little red-haired kid on Lost in Space, right? Well, he was living in Los Angeles filming Lost in Space in 1965. And on the weekends, his mom would drive him to Cherokee Books in downtown Los Angeles. And then when he was a little later, he'd hitchhike, you know, and to Cherokee Books. And I've heard a lot of people talk about Cherokee Books. I've seen some pictures online of Cherokee Books, but it was apparently not in the best part of Los Angeles. But here's another copy of that. So, I don't know. That last Guardians of the Galaxy movie was actually good. Although they really did a bad job with Adam Warlock. Yeah, this one I definitely remember that day in summer of maybe 1979, walking all the hot day, walking to Lone Star Comics and buying this issue. I was so happy. I don't know what I paid for it, maybe $5, which was a lot of money back then. But anytime I had a 12-cent book, it just made me so happy. Thor 138. 139. They didn't do much with this character in the Thor movie. She appeared in the first, or was it the second Thor movie? And then I think they killed her off. But she's really, if you know about mythology, she was actually Thor's wife. So it was always destiny for him to wind up with Sif, not, it's pronounced Sif. When I was a kid reading these comics, I thought it was Sif. That sounds a little bit like a disease, though. But I didn't know how to pronounce anything. And they said, well, you know, it was really Jack Kirby that knew about mythology, not Stan Lee. But you know, you can knock Stan Lee all you want, but Stan Lee was necessary, not just as a salesman of the whole line of comics, but as he just was able to make the stories readable. That arm is a little weird, but it's okay. It's Jack Kirby. Look at that. He's throwing the hammer right at you. Oh, another copy. It looks like maybe a subscription copy. Here's 142. Beautiful cover. There was a Hellboy that did a salute to this. Beautiful. And Marvel, of course, ruined the Skrulls in the Captain Marvel movie. And I think there was just a TV series on that I don't think anybody watched called Secret Invasion. This is one of the first Thor books I ever read, but I didn't read it in this form. It was reprinted in Origin of Marvel Comics. They reprinted the very first appearance, the Origin. What Origin of Marvel Comics did is they reprinted the first appearance, the origin of the hero, and then after that they'd reprint a more current issue. And even though this wasn't a current issue when that book came out, like in 1974, it was just it just showed how the character had progressed over the years. Here's Thor 144. Thor 145. That is so great. I just like looking at these, man. It cheers me up. 146. yeah, so just call me Dr. Orloff, or if you want to call me Ken or whatever, it's fine. 147. Even though I understand Ken is now a hated figure, all these people that saw the Barbie movies, like, I took my son to see Barbie because I wanted him to see how bad Ken was so he won't grow up to be a Ken. It's like, man, people are insane in the membrane. 150. Oh, this AI, man. What do you think of this AI? Sometimes, you know, I'll see like a beach scene and there's spaceships in the background, and it's like right out of Buck Rogers, and someone that knows how to manipulate AI has made this really cool Flash Gordon scene on a beach. And it's like if the Flash Gordon Buck Rogers world really did come. You know, sometimes we'll see some AI stuff that's hilarious, but really it's a dangerous thing, because what's going to happen is all these evil, malicious people in politics and everything, they're going to just do their horrible crimes right out in the public. And then if someone films them, they'll say, that's deceptive. That's obviously just AI. And then no one's ever going to believe anything they see except by their own eyes, because any photograph, any video you see, any music you hear, any movie you see, you're just going to think, well, that could just be manipulated with AI. Nothing's going to be, it's going to take the fun out of everything, first of all. It's like you see someone, you know, falling off a stagecoach, and you think, well, that stuntman, I wonder if they got hurt. And it's like, no, it's just going to be CGI or now AI. I think it's a good way for bad people to try to escape responsibility for their crimes, and just say, oh, clearly that was AI. Like they, you know, people were even trying to say that about the Hunter Biden laptop. It's like, oh, that was all fake footage done by the Russians. Some people are so gullible and stupid sometimes. 154. But AI, I heard the other day, someone took Straight Outta Compton and made it sound like Hank Williams was singing it, and like Hank Williams' band was playing, but it was the lyrics from Straight Outta Compton. And I laughed for a minute, and then I thought, you know, there's got to be people that really think this is a Hank Williams song. You know, they're just, right now, it starts as fun and funny, you know, it's like, look, you're going to be an old person like Dr. Orloff, and you can see what you used to look like at age 15 by using this little filter on Facebook. And it makes people weep when they, you know, have some 80-year-olds see what they look like when they're 15. And then I have 2 copies of that. But it's really there for malicious purposes. That, you know, and they can frame people too. They can show, look at this person doing this horrible crime. He should not be elected president or whatever. That's the star that you would get at a military base when you bought the comic. But it doesn't always mean you have a Mark Jewellers insert in it. I don't think they did those inserts in Marvel Comics. I've never seen them. I think it's only done in DC books. Okay, so we're still in the 12-cent era. This is a interesting cover. You got 3 Kirby Thors and a non-Kirby Thor. I guess I should know more about the origin of that cover. 159. 160. We're starting to get into the time period. It's still 12 cents, but this is when Jack Kirby starts saying to himself, heck, I'm just going to start drawing full-page panels all the time, since they're not paying me more. And there's fewer words, and it starts to be more like a modern comic where there's hardly anything to read in it. Yeah, we're starting to get, it's still great, it's still Kirby, it's still Stan Lee, but we're starting to get past the wonder. Let me open this up because I see this bag's loose. I'll open it up and show you what I mean. See, there's big panels. Used to be there'd be about 9 panels on a page. See, it's still beautiful. You got all this great Kirby art. It's just not as much to read. That's the only thing. It's wonderful. And it all happened right about 68 when Silver Surfer started and all the Marvel line expanded. Still incredible. You know, I was thinking about, everyone's talking about this new Conan the Barbarian comic coming from, what is it, Titan Comics. And everyone's all amazed. There's this artist from Spain or somewhere that does this really good impression of John Buscema's art. So it almost looks like you're looking at a Marvel Conan comic from the early 70s when he was the main artist on Conan. And I was thinking about that, and it's like things have gotten so bad that we're excited about someone that's an imitation of someone that passed away, I think in 2002. Is that when he passed away? And it's like, oh, well, this guy, it's like the music's so bad. Taylor Swift or whoever's popular now, I don't know who's popular. What was that song, WAP, Cardi B or whatever? You know, music like that, and then let's say a Beatle imitation band comes along, and it's like, wow, they really sound like the Beatles, and everyone falls in love with them because it's like so much better than this horrible new music because it sounds like the great music from the past, but it's not the Beatles. And it's like, I haven't read this new Conan book. I missed out. I missed out on the first printing, but I am interested in it. Even I'm interested in it. I'm not going to lie about it, but it just makes me wonder. It's like, why? This guy, does he bring anything new, or is it just imitating John Buscema? Because like later in the 90s, there was an artist in the 90s was terrible, but in the Thor comic, there was an artist named Ron Frenz that he did a great imitation of Jack Kirby. Sometimes the panels he really did just completely almost trace panels, but it was great, and it looked, if you looked at him, it looked like a vintage Thor comic, except they didn't use the original logo anymore. If they had put that logo on it and put a corner box, that Ron Frenz art would have made you think you're looking at a 1966 comic book. But it was an imitation of Jack Kirby. And it's like, what does Ron Frenz's artwork look like? It looks like Jack Kirby. It's nothing new. And I loved it because there wasn't any new Jack Kirby art on Thor, but you kind of wish, can we have some new artists with new distinctive styles? Or do they not make that anymore? There's no new creativity? Instead of imitating the Beatles or imitating Jack Kirby or imitating, what was I just talking about? Or imitating John Buscema, be new or have influences from the past and bring your own new stuff with the influences, which is what, people did in the old days. Oh, you ever heard of Peanuts? This actually belonged to the round-headed child star of that. See, this is Charles Brown. See that? That's Charlie. This is from the Charlie Brown Pedigree collection. Okay, so in the early 70s, you had all these new artists like you had Bernie Wrightson. And Bernie Wrightson, you could look at it, and if you were around 20 years before, you'd say, I see the influence of Graham Ingalls, ghastly Graham Ingalls from the EC Comics in his art, but it's not a total imitation, slavish imitation, but I can see it. I can look at Mike Plug, another great artist from the early 70s, and I can see Will Eisner in that art because he had actually worked for Will Eisner as his assistant. And you can look at a girl's face, and Mike Plug draws, and it's like, oh, that looks like something from the Spirit when you're reading Werewolf by Night or Ghost Rider. You know, you can see it. But it's not. But when I think of Mike Plug, I don't think of a Will Eisner imitator. It was new and distinctive, but it still had the influences of the old. Just like almost anybody has the influences of Jack Kirby in their art, except maybe not these artists today. And then Jack Kirby, you know, his influences were, you know, Alex Raymond, and you know, Alex Raymond started all of this. By this point, I've got 2 copies of this issue. This point, I think it's getting, this is probably one of the last Kirby issues. Let's take a look at this. I think, sorry, I'm watching The Man Whose Name Cannot Be Spoken. Yeah, this is a beat up copy of Thor number 174, and by then they were 15 cents. It's still beautiful Kirby art. Maybe, yeah, maybe I'm wrong. It just seems like the writing is not as dense as it was, and it seems like Kirby's style is a little looser. I'm probably wrong. What the heck's going on? Oh, I take it back. This is beautiful, but trust me, Thor was better a few years before, in the mid 60s. 174. Yeah, what point does Kirby leave? Let's see here. It's 176. Is it with this issue? Could be. Yeah, by this point, Kirby was gone over to DC, creating the Third World. Not Third World. It wasn't Third World. Was it the Fourth World, right? The Third World. We don't need the Third World to be created. It already exists. I guess that's... I don't know what I'm talking about. And collectors bought that stuff up, but collectors bought it up from the distributors before it could ever get to the newsstands. And then the newsstands reported low sales because they didn't have many comics to sell, because the comic collector fan dealers were coming in the back door and buying up the the New Gods and all those new Kirby DC books before they could ever get to the newsstand. They bought up big piles of them and took them back in their station wagon or their VW van and started selling a mail order in their new comic stores, the few that existed then. And then DC said, well, your books aren't really selling, Kirby. And they were. It's just they were selling. It was all a very horrible thing that happened. People loved Kirby's work so much that it looked like it wasn't selling. Here is Thor Annual number 2 from 1966. This is the time period you want to be getting. And this one, Thor Annual number 3, I see this more than almost anything. It's like in every comic store, you always see this issue. It's, I don't know if they printed more or if it was because the cartoon was on television and syndication at this point, the Thor cartoon. It could have been. Oh, boy. Another beautiful cover, number 4. I'll show the 1970s Thor books, too, depending on how... Oh, look, I have 3 copies of this issue. Ooh, this is something you should get. Yeah, stock up on food and water, but maybe you should go pick up this issue. This is a lot of fun. Tales of Asgard. And then Special Marvel Edition #1. These are reprints, but from about 1969, 1970 probably. Still a great book. Oh, then we get to one of my favorite books. I don't have many, but it was one of the first comics I ever read. Was The Three Musketeers, and in reprint form. This is one of the original 10-cent Three Musketeers. Obviously, it's been well loved. Some kid drew on it. Look, it has a free ice cream coupon worth 10 cents. Joe Biden probably would have loved that. When this came out, he was probably a kid. Nah, he's probably in the 50s. Biden would have been in what, high school? What is the guy, like practically, he's like 81, right? Something like that. Yeah, he would have been a kid in the 50s. He probably, I can't do the math, he probably graduated high school early 60s. And then, because by the early 70s, when he went into the Senate, he was the youngest guy to go into the Senate, but he was already balding. He later put in hair plugs, like they put in little doll hair strands. So how can you make fun of Biden's hair? Look at Trump's hair. Yeah, I know. Trump's hair has always been funny. He even admits it. It's just, people are vain about their hair. They lose their hair. They do elaborate comb-overs and weird DA ducktail kind of things. It's like something he's always done. I'm sure there are advisors that tell him, hey, let me style your hair, and he just wants to do it himself. It's that's always been amusing since I first was aware of Trump in probably the 70s. Yeah, these aren't in good shape, but I love this artist. Same guy that did Sugar and Spike. We were talking about Sugar and Spike recently. I wish I had more of these. Someday. It's basically, it's like November 1941 or 1860 or 1775, or it's just like something's gonna happen. It's just like that. It makes me think that maybe we should stock up a little bit. Here's one that's not in the bag yet, probably because I don't have a Golden Age bag. So let's look at it. Look, you can magnify bugs and see what they look like. Yeah, this is a beat up copy. Ugh. Yeah. I don't know about this, but you can read it. And I mean, I could have seen this and thought, it's in too bad a condition to buy. But it's the only one I've ever seen. I could get on mycomicshop.com or go to eBay and probably find another one. But I've never seen, you don't see these much in the wild. So yeah, not only are these thick, they have rolled spines. These are probably all from the same original owner. And so it makes it real hard to fit into a bag. Automatic firing tripod machine gun. Ugh. Beautiful. Oh, you want to see the Bronze Age Thor books, don't you? Well, I want to finish up this box so you can just get stuffed. I want to look at the Three Musketeers books. Okay, so Three Musketeers. Wait a second. That was issue 25. Okay, and then in the 15-cent era, late 60s, right, then Three Musketeers starts over again with number 2. And then this is number 3. This is a modern, current, 1970. This is when I discovered Three Musketeers in this reprint era. I think these are all reprints of the 50s Three Musketeers. So this is, I got 2 copies of that issue. Okay. Getting close to a significant thing. This is my childhood copy of when I first discovered the Three Musketeers. Yes, it should be filed under S for Super DC Giant, but I have it here with the Three Musketeers. This, I didn't know these were reprints from the 50s. I just enjoyed it. I think maybe they did new covers, but look at the floating heads, man. It would be funny is on one of those Justice League covers, one of those summer issues where Justice League crossed over with the Justice Society, just to put some of these heads mixed in with the Justice Society. I could do that if I had Micah's skill. There's a few issues of Tomahawk. Tomahawk was always a Silver Age book you could afford because nobody wanted it. It was one of the books that you could get real cheap, like Metamorpho, and it's not that it's a bad book, it's just collectors in the late 70s, early 80s were not looking for Tomahawk. Ooh, that's bad. So you could get it for a couple bucks and then have a cool time reading something from the 60s. And the great thing about the 60s books is you got ads like this, and just feels special. Sometimes books have little stains. It's like, ugh. You don't know what that is. Tomahawk is an insane Western. It didn't start this insane, but in the 60s they started bringing monsters into it. I think in the earlier issues it was more of a Daniel Boone kind of. A few years after the Revolutionary War, it looks like I have another one that's not as soiled. Then, you know, by the Go-Go Check era, it was starting to get kind of insane like this. Imagine if there was a Western, though, on television with characters dressed like that. Imagine if they just adapted that. Ooh, the pages in here are very white. It's a fun book. I don't have many of them. Oh, I got 2 copies. What? I have 2 copies of this same issue. There we go. And then you can tell we're getting into the more serious era. There's a Joe Kubert cover. The 15-cent Neil Adams era where things got a little more serious. Here's Two Gun Kid 73. Two Gun Kid 94. Been watching a lot of Westerns lately, a lot of John Wayne movies. What in the name of heck is going on here? Oh, Trimpe. I was looking at it, and at first it looked like Severin, and then I look a little closer, no, that's not Severin, and then I see this name there, it's like, what the heck does that say? Does that say Diana? Then I realized, oh, it says Trimpe, which I thought, I used to think was Herb Trimp, but then I realized it's Herb Trimpe. Here's Wonder Woman Pizza Hut Collector's Edition. Imagine going to a Pizza Hut today and getting a reprint of an old comic. Wouldn't that be great? Maybe they ought to start doing that. Okay, so I get. Oh, they're trying to bring back the big. We won't talk. Well, they're trying to bring back a new pandemic. Will people fall for it this time? Who knows? 139. See, I wish I had more of Wonder Woman comics, but I don't. There's a period in Wonder Woman. The heck? This looks like something out of the Book of Revelations. It's like, what the heck? There's a period in the 1960s where they go back and have for at least a year and start doing World War II stories. That's cool. Man, you just don't see these very often. You know, whenever I've seen them, I bought them, and so you can tell I haven't seen them that often. That's why I have so few. Ooh, this one could, if I knew someone that had one of those presses, this definitely could use some pressing. Gee, Jehoshaphat. Yeah, let's go get those modern Thor books and look at them. What is this? Okay, here it says, again, DC dares and does the impossible, unlocking the spectacular secrets of comics' golden age. So, see, here's how you can tell they've gone back to the golden age. She has these Greek-looking straps, which, no, she had them before. No, she's been having those. But anyway. Is this one 159? Okay. And then this is another, it says, now at last, for the first time since the golden age of comics, the only true secret origin of the mighty Amazon, Wonder Woman. Complete, unexpurgated, startling, unbelievable. Wonder Woman will reveal the innermost secrets of the Amazons, their powers, their weaknesses, their weapons, their strange gods, their fearful laws, their punishments, their island paradise, their Amazon code, a DC first and other great collector's items. Let me go, I must tell the truth. It's like a carnival barker. It's like all this. Come see under the tent the amazing Amazon. Oh, actually, it's the complete opposite of what I'm saying. She was in the strappy Greek shoes, and then when they take her back to the Golden Age, they give her the boots that we're more used to today, which I think is what she wore in the Golden Age too, right? So, yeah, comics Golden Age. I wonder why that decision was made in the 60s to do it. They also did the same thing when the TV show started in the mid-70s. They moved back and started telling World War II stories because the first season of Wonder Woman on television was set in World War II. Let's see when they stop. Yeah, it's still... Ooh, that's a great cover. I say we shouldn't look at lasers, those exist, but it's not that. You don't need to do that. The real fire system is... Yeah, I'm not sure when she goes back to modern times. Of course, you could buy the Justice League book and see Wonder Woman today in 1966, 67, but if you bought the Wonder Woman continuing book, you got the Wonder Woman from your parents' generation. Andrew and Esposito, 168. Not sure if this is still in the... what is it? Not the Human Centipede, thankfully, but the Crimson Centipede. I've still never seen the Human Centipede. Just the concept of it is so repulsive. My wife says she's seen it and that I do not need to see it, but there's one of those gorillas that DC used to sell books. if you enjoy these videos, if you would hit the like button and put a comment, you can just put, hey, it's this okay show today. Put some comments. Let's see, I got hungry this morning and started eating this Wonder Woman book. I'm not going to keep plugging that TV show I do, Tomb of Terror. If you want it, contact me. I'll get episodes to you. I'm about to do a new episode. I start to realize it's like me putting out. Nobody buys DVDs anymore. DVDs, then there were Blu-rays, and now everyone streams movies, which is stupid because you should have physical copies, because at any point, that's what Klaus Schwab wants of you. He wants, in the World Economic Forum, they want you to live in a little box with nothing, and you'll own nothing, and you'll be happy, and you'll just stream everything or rent everything, or they'll just give you a basic income, and you could just sit there in the box all day and scroll on your phone or be in some virtual reality world. It's just basically like the Matrix, and you just be a good little person and eat bugs. But owning things, because if they decide this person's thinking incorrectly, we'll shut off his access to Netflix. Or we'll, not allow you to be on this social networking. You won't be allowed to play your video games or watch your movies because you are doing thought crimes. So, that's how they can do that to you. This is one that, then they were desperately trying to sell Wonder Woman books. First, they put her in the 1940s. That didn't work, although it was great. And then they turned her into Diana. They turned her into the Avengers, Diana Peel. I'm sorry, Emma Peel. I'm losing my freaking mind. Emma Peel. But just they're trying to sell books. This is good too. It's just probably. At least when they finally brought Wonder Woman back in her original costume, it made people appreciate it more. I guess it's like we take away Coke from you, and then when we give you new Coke, and then when we bring the original Coke back, we'll call it Coca-Cola Classic, and you'll appreciate it. Now you didn't appreciate it till we took it away from you. I just remembered I was telling you a story in another episode, and I realized I never finished it, although I probably told the story before. I was talking about Elsie the cow and her family, and I got distracted, but I was talking about Elsie the cow is married to Elmer the bull, that you see on Elmer's glue. And I was saying, what I was trying to get to, I don't think I finished the story, is that in the old magazine ads, the hot lights, when they were taking a picture of cereal in a bowl, the hot lights would make the milk look bad. It would look off. The color would look off. So what they used to do is they used to put Elmer's glue in the bowl and then put cereal into the Elmer's glue. And when you took a photograph of it, it really looked like it was in fresh milk, white milk. So that was what I was about to tell you, because I remember studying that in college and advertising, how sometimes print ads can be deceptive. But so when you see those old Kellogg's ads, and that just, because I always thought it was weird that Elmer and Elmer's glue and Borden milk were from the same manufacturer. It makes you think a little weird. I'll bring the Thor books down. Let's get the elevator down, because I don't want to lug a long box of comics down the stairs. So let's go into the elevator here. Turn the light on. Okay. See if the light's off. So there's down in the basement, and the elevator is up in the attic. So I'll pull this cord. Which one do I pull? Oh, there it comes. door over there is the door that goes into the garage. Here we are. Okay. Here we go. Elevator's arrived. I gotta adjust it just right. Hold on a second. Okay. So now we go